Hello my friends, welcome to No Nonsense Metal Reviews. I'm George and today I'm back with yet another collection update showing off a few of the recent additions I've picked up for the collection, all of which are death metal releases. Got some tapes, got some CDs and a couple of articles of merch, and in fact there's going to be a part 2 of this collection update coming very soon, as I've also picked up recently some pretty cool vinyl and a whole bunch more CDs. It's been a good time for acquisitions recently. I've managed to find some pretty solid deals and reasonably priced new and previously owned articles, which I'm very pleased with, as I am often ranting on the channel here about the ridiculous price of physical media these days. Insanely expensive, especially CDs, seems to be ridiculous, but all of these are bargains, so I am chuffed with those. So first of all, we'll start off with the tapes. This is a really cool little batch, just 4 tapes, but all of which have sailed across or flown across the Atlantic. Somehow they've hopped over the pond, from Hell's Headbangers Records, a great record label, distro, store. Can't remember exactly where in the US they are located, but they are somewhere in the United States. So first of all, and the main reason I placed this little order in the first place, is actually the newest album from Molder. So this band is a fairly modern band, or recent band, younger band, from, I think they're from Illinois. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. But Molder are very much an old school death metal band, old school in style, very much for fans, essential listening for fans of Asphyx, Incantation, Autopsy, that kind of old school death metal, you know, a bit of death doom vibe going on there. But this is a band which I'm absolutely loving. And this album is a superb album. It's a great continuation of form. So it's their third album. The previous 2 albums, or the first 2 albums I should say, I have both of those articles on cassette tape as well. So I've kind of completed the trinity, the first 3 albums on tape. And Catastrophic Reconfiguration, as it's titled, is a little bit of a challenge to try and track down here in the UK. I pre-ordered the CD on Amazon. Just didn't happen. It was just, the weeks were rolling by and nothing. So decided to cancel that, ordered it from another web store here in the UK, which after a period of no communication, they then said it was unavailable. So had to fight to get my money back for that one. Not great. And then tried to order a vinyl version from Amazon, which unfortunately went out of stock the very day that I was going to place the order. But I found the tape copy, and I'm going to covet this in the collection because it's a very good album. I've only listened to it a few times, I will admit. It's on a nice blue tape shell, but it's a solid album. It's got some good, gritty, old school death metal tracks on there. It's just a solid album. Like I say, if you like Asphyx, there's a strong Martin Van Drunen influence on the vocals there, but the riffs as well. You know, it's got that dirty sound to it. Think Incantation, Autopsy, as I say, but a very good album and a good continuation of form. So we've got Molder with Catastrophic Reconfiguration, a lovely little cassette article to have there. I always say I love cassettes. There's something really quite organic about them. I love that analog style. And this is actually released, it's a Prosthetic Records release, released via Head Split Records, or yeah, the tape version I believe is the Head Split Records release. Cool little thing to have. And then I couldn't help but pick up 3 albums from Suffocation, which I have all of these on CD. But I love Suffocation. They are one of my favourite death metal bands, and I know that a lot of death metal fans probably feel the same. They are such a great band, such a unique band, hugely important on the evolution and the creation of brutal death metal and technical death metal as well. Such a brilliant band, love them to bits. All of these albums I have on CD, but I just saw the tape and I couldn't help myself. So chronologically, we've got Blood Oath from, I think it's 2009. Yep, 2009. All of these are tape reissues released via Undying Music, a label that I'm not familiar with, I must admit. But it just got a clear shell with a kind of red print on there and a very expansive insert. And you know what? Blood Oath is an interesting album. It took me a long time to really get to grips with this one. I remember the first time I heard it not being all that convinced. It's much slower paced and it's very technical. You know, it's a really tech deaf album, and that doesn't necessarily easily connect with me, I will admit, but it has grown on me over time. It's certainly got a great cover. Frank Mullins, great vocalist that he was, no longer with Suffocation, of course. I think he's still involved to some degree, maybe, not quite sure, but Frank sounds great here. The lineup is solid. Mike Smith absolutely killing the kit, one of the highlights there, alongside Terence and Guy absolutely shredding, and the incredible Derek Boyer on bass. All superb, masterful musicians. And yeah, I'd say this album has grown on me with time. There are some really good tracks here in the form of certainly Dismal Dream is a bit of a standout, Images of Purgatory, Mental Hemorrhage, Come Hell or High Priest. It's a good album. It's just very technical, which is hardly a surprise. You know, Suffocation are known for their technicality and intricacies, but the album that I really did connect with first time I heard it and still absolutely love is Pinnacle of Bedlam. So this album was a little bit later, in fact, 2013, but this is a solid album. I really like this one. I remember at the time reading a few mixed reviews, in fact, which kind of surprised me. I think that maybe it's because it was a little bit more brutal, a little bit faster, less kind of technical and progressive. Don't know. But this is an amazing album. I absolutely love it. So for this album, we don't have Mike with the band anymore. We've got Dave Coloros on drums. Still the rest of the band is as it was with Blood Oath. But this album is absolutely savage. I love it. Again, clear shell with green print, Undying Music. Some really good tracks here. Cycles of Suffering, Purgatorial Punishment, As Grace Descends, which is brilliant. The title track's brilliant. My Demise, and the continuation of a re-recording from Breeding the Spawn. We've got Beginning of Sorrow to close out the album there. So this is a nice one. In fact, I was listening to this again the other day on tape, and haven't listened to the album itself on CD or any other format for a good few months. Actually, I forgot just how much I freaking love that album. So we've got Pinnacle of Bedlam, and then the slightly more polarizing and divisive Of the Dark Light, which came out in 2016. Slightly different version here, still Undying Music, but we've got I think it's a teal. I don't know enough to say whether that's teal or not, but a nice, interesting shell. Must admit, it's got a good cover. I love the colour scheme. Expansive insert again here. The lineup, a few lineup changes here. We've now got Eric Morotti on drums, and we've got Charlie Erigo on guitars alongside Terence. You know what? I really like this album. Again, there isn't a Suffocation album that I don't like, I will say. I think they're all really good in their own way. I feel that this is a much heavier album. It's a much more brutal album. Less technical. Less progressive. It's kind of right on the other end of the spectrum to Blood Oath, which is a good album. It is a good album, but I think I like the savagery of this album. We've got some really hard-hitting sort of breakdowns in tracks like Clarity Through Deprivation and The Warmth Within the Dark, Return to the Abyss, heavy as hell. Caught Between Two Worlds. Some really solid stuff. Again, haven't listened to this one until revisiting it again. In could be over a year or so. You know what? I've forgotten just how good this one is. It's really, really grown on me, and I loved it at the time, and I still love it. But I appreciate it a lot more now. So, sounding awesome on tape, we have Of the Dying Light from Suffocation. So that is our 4 tapes. 4 tapes there, nice articles, pleased to have all of those. Sticking with, shall we say, technical death metal, maybe progressive, certainly brutal. We've got a band that I absolutely love, and a lot of people absolutely love this band, of course. We're talking the mighty Cryptopsy from Montreal, Canada. This is a legendary band, a truly legendary band, and a brilliant band at that, who have a lot of great releases in their discography, the majority of which are very hard to get hold of here in the UK, of course. And if you do manage to find copies, pre-owned or new, tend to be extortionate. But this was a second-hand copy that came from Germany. This is Whisper Supremacy, full-length album. And we got a year for this one. It says 1998. Sounds about right. This is a cracking album. This is savage technical death metal. Very brutal stuff. I've only listened to it a few times on CD. I have listened to it previously on Spotify or YouTube. This is such a good album. It's just start to finish a whirlwind of brutality. Proper savage stuff. We've got some brilliant tracks. The opening track, Emaciate, in particular, hits like a bulldozer. We've got the brilliant Cold Hate, Warm Blood, second track there. Just trying to find a line-up here, just to go through as well. But other particular standouts for me, Loathe. Of course, we've got the brilliant White Worms as well. A few of these tracks do appear on the Best of Us Bleed compilation as well, which is a great compilation to have, and that was the first place that I heard some of these tracks. Depths You've Fallen, Faceless Unknown, Serpent's Evil. It's great. Freaking love it. Start to finish. This is heavy as freaking hell. Line up here. I'm just going to go straight in there and say Flo Mornia, one of the best drummers just ever. That guy is an absolute drumming tornado. Love that guy's drumming. We've got Eric on bass, Miguel Roy, rhythm and lead, guitars, John, lead and rhythm, and guitars, and Mike DeSalvo on vocals. Good vocalist, very strong vocal performance. I just realised that's Serpent's Coil. I thought it was. On the back there, it almost looks like evil. Maybe that's because I haven't got my glasses on. But a very good album. A great album. Going to be listening to that a few more times. I was hoping to be able to do at some point like an album ranking or some sort of review on Cryptopsy, because I absolutely love them. And it's interesting because I'm not a massive fan of technical music or progressive music. I do appreciate it incorporated into my death metal or black metal or thrash metal, whatever. But Cryptopsy I absolutely love. It's just a blizzard of technical brutality. Love it. Sticking with Cryptopsy then, recently via Season of Mists Records, we've had reissues of the brilliant Book of Suffering EPs. So we've got Tome 1 and Tome 2. I did actually have a copy of Tome 1 at the time when it was originally released in 2015, but for reasons unknown, I actually parted ways with it many years ago, and that was during a particularly strange time in my life. But I always remembered that this was such a great release, considering that it's only 4 tracks, about less than 20 minutes long, I believe, in total, but it absolutely pummels. These are such good EPs, both of these respectively. There's our lineup. Both of them 4 tracks, both of them are absolutely savage. Mixed by Jason Sukoff, I will say, so there's a really good sound here. It's very well done. Flo absolutely crushes. We've got Matt Magachi on vocals, apologies if I'm mispronouncing. Chris Donaldson guitars and Ollie Pinnard bass. Love the rumbling bass, the prominence and the clamour of the bass. I love it, but I also love those ripping frickin' tearing riffs. And Matt's a really good vocalist as well. So a brilliant release here, a crushing EP, start to finish. Detritus, The Knife, The Head and What Remains, Holothane Glow, and Framed by Blood. Awesome, so good. This EP was released in 2015, 2024 reissue. Then we've got Tome 2. I love these artworks, the kind of pure horror vibe that's going on there with these is great. And for some reason, it really does remind me of some sort of like post-apocalyptic, bit of Walking Dead kind of thing going on here. But Tome 2 is equally brilliant. Released a bit later, this is actually 2018, so it's a few years in between. Less familiar with this material. We've got The Wretched Living, which is brilliant. Sire of Sin, Fear His Displeasure, and The Laws of the Flesh. Absolutely brutal stuff. So good. Start to finish, absolutely crushes. 2 brilliant EPs from the mighty Cryptopsy. Very much looking forward to seeing them out on tour with Decapitated and Warbringer and Carnation, in fact, in May. Going to be catching them in Norwich. Very much looking forward to that. And I've also got a couple of articles of merch from Cryptopsy too. So I picked up these recently on a web store sale. Long sleeves, of course. I am a sucker for long sleeves. If I see a long sleeve, I'm probably going to go for it over a t-shirt every time. But we've got the classic Blasphemy Made Flesh artwork there. A classic album. Sadly, I only have that album in a Back on Black Records 2 CD reissue alongside None So Vile, which is a cool thing to have, but I'd rather have just the individual CD, but it's so expensive to get it here in the UK. Again, many moons ago, I did have an individual CD of it, but for whatever reason, that one I parted ways with as well, and I hate myself for it, but I've recently made amends. Great artwork, savage stuff. We've got title backprint, nice big prominent logo, that's what it's all about. Then we've got down one sleeve, it says Blasphemy Made Flesh, bit of a tongue twister. And down the other sleeve, which is very cool, we have, try and flatten it out so you can actually see, we've got little logos. So they've got a cool logo anyway, and their title is freaking cool. So that's one Cryptopsy long sleeve, Blasphemy Made Flesh. Very, very cool. And then we've got the other iconic album with its very iconic album cover. We've got None So Vile. Again, awesome big logo there. Nice bit of artwork. And down both sleeves this time, we've got the same design, but slightly different colour scheme. Like it. I'm just happy to have a nice big bold logo. Ta-da! I'm all about that. You know, there's nothing more disappointing than picking up a t-shirt or a long sleeve or a hoodie or whatever, and it's only got a tiny, minuscule little logo on it. No. Big, bold. That's what we want. Bold. Like it. So, that's Cryptopsy. On to another band. Very progressive, this one. I don't know if I'm really hooked on this, or if it's just because it's quite different and I don't normally go for this sort of progressive death metal, but I've kind of been hooked for the last few days on the most recent album from Tomb Mold. I believe these guys are from Toronto, Canada. I'm pretty certain they're from Canada anyway, and I think this was released in 2024. This is The Enduring Spirit, and it's a very good album. This is very progressive death metal. But when I say progressive death metal, I mean it's really progressive. And that's not just to my ears. My my best friend, in fact, is a big prog fan and progressive death metal fan, and he loves this. This is right up his street. So that comes from a good, reliable source. Very out there. It's death metal. Two Mold have been around for a few years, released some great albums. Planetary Clairvoyance is a really good album, and I guess most notably The Manner of Infinite Forms. But this album, I've been really hooked on it over the last sort of week or so. In particular, the first sort of 4 or 5 tracks. The closing track is a massive epic track. It's like 12 minutes long. It's called The Enduring Spirit of Calamity, and it is incredibly progressive. It's a meandering, winding, cosmic, celestial journey. It's great, I will say. It's really good stuff. Very well done. But I really appreciate the tracks that are a bit more death metal. So The Perfect Memory, or Phantasm of Aura, Angelic Fabrications, Will of Whispers is a particular favourite. There's parts of it that it's almost not metal at all. It's very, very prog. But when they're heavy, they're really heavy. When they're proggy, they're really proggy. I need to give it more time, more listens, but you know what? This could be one of the albums to kind of finally get me into prog death metal in a bit of a bigger way. So we've got Two Mold, The Enduring Spirit, and then completing the cycle with basically just good old-fashioned death metal, we've got a bit of a parody band. We've got the most recent couple of albums from Cannabis Corpse, from Richmond, Virginia, the side project of Landfill, notable for being bassist of Municipal Waste, another sort of parody thrash band, if you like. But this is, first of all, Left Hand Pass, and we've also got Nug So Vile. So these are both really good albums, and they are very good death metal albums. They're a good death metal band. If you can't quite get on with more light-hearted metal and humour in your metal, that isn't just uber serious and about death and murder and destruction or Satan or anything of those good wholesome subjects, if you just can't quite accept a bit of humour, you're probably not going to enjoy Cannabis Corpse. But actually, all of the weed jokes and pot jokes aside, there's some really good death metal in there. I've been following Cannabis Corpse for quite a few years, and they are good fun, but they're also a good band. I can't quite recall how I even stumbled upon them. I think there was a music video, I believe it was. There was a music video for one of the tracks from Beneath the Glow Lights Thou Shall Rise that kind of intrigued me, and that was my first introduction to the band. But we've got some decent albums here that I had overlooked for many years, in fact. Left Hand Pass came out in 2017. So, goodness, like 8 years ago. Don't know how it's been that long, but I remember this coming out, and for reasons unknown, actually I think it was a classic case of it's way too expensive for way too long. I just didn't pick up a copy, but finally have. I've got all of the previous albums to these two, and I really like it. It's not overly complicated. It's just good old school death metal. If you like Cannibal Corpse, 6 Feet Under, Obituary, that kind of good old stuff, then you're going to enjoy Cannabis Corpse. Even if you don't really like the humorous side of it, there's some really great stuff here. I've also got Brandon Ellis, live guitarist, involved, which I didn't realise until very recently. So you've got Brandon of the Black Dahlia Murder involved as well. But the core lineup is Landfill, Josh Hallhammer Hall on drums, and Jay Sui on guitars. This is a particularly good album, and I'm also really enjoying this one, Nug So Vile, released in 2019, so it's quite a few years ago now. But again, this is a really solid album. We've now got Adam Williams on lead and rhythm guitars instead. Solid stuff. Just entertaining, brutal, weed-themed death metal. Very enjoyable stuff. Very, very far removed from Cryptopsy and Tomb Mold, of course, or Suffocation even, but yeah, enjoyable stuff. So there we have it, my brief collection update. Got some cool articles here from the likes of Suffocation, Cryptopsy. We've got the excellent new album from Molder. If you're looking for something new and I guess old school in sound and style, then you're definitely going to want to check out Molder and Catastrophic Reconfiguration. It's a brilliant album. We've got 3 solid albums here from Suffocation. You know, Pinnacle of Bedlam, of course Blood Oath, can't overlook that one, and Of the Dark Light. Brilliant stuff. And the amazing Cryptopsy, Whisper Supremacy. Also got the brilliant Book of Suffering EPs here that I would certainly recommend. Those are powerful EPs. If you're fancying something really prog and out there, we've got Tomb Mold, The Enduring Spirit, and Cannabis Corpse. If you fancy some old school death metal, old school style death metal in the vein of Obituary, 6 Feet Under, Cannibal Corpse. Yeah, a little bit more simplistic in approach, but good, amusing and entertaining stuff. So my friends, what are your thoughts on these bands, these albums? Have you got these in your collection? What are your thoughts anyway? Let me know. Interested to hear thoughts and opinions of others as always. Thank you very much for watching. Please do feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment. Support is very much appreciated as always, so thank you. Do check back soon for more reviews and recommendations of all the good heavy things. Until next time, take care of yourselves and stay heavy.